Hello, New Horizons. Have you ever noticed just how important names are? I think many of you probably have names that are tied to a significant event. Maybe your name has an important meaning, and that's highly likely, I suppose. Maybe some of you are named after one of your pets, or your pets are named after you. Hard to say. But connecting it maybe with a name that had meaning in your life is what names are all about. And I love to hear about people's nicknames because, sometimes they're associated with what you look like or kind of something about your attitude. For example, you might see a guy that has a huge frame and his name is Bruiser. I'd be willing to bet that you're not going to see that name given to a little guy. Probably likely that you would not see that. But on the other hand, I've yet to find someone who called their child's name after a world despot, like Hitler maybe, because names mean something. And if I was to say the name, let's say Nikola Jokic, you'd immediately be able to think about basketball. If I was to mention the name of Bill Gates, you might think about computers. If I said the name John Elway, you might think about, let me see, what would it be? Oh yeah, football. Because names mean something. And the issue of a name is not a minor thing. It's not a small thing. But I've also noticed that in the Bible, that names would explain the future of somebody. For example, what they would do is names would speak of their character. Jacob's name meant deceiver, and he lived up to his name for a while. But later on, he had a struggle with the Lord, and he wrestled with the Lord over it. Coming out of that, the Lord changed his name to reflect his character. And he would no longer be called Jacob, but he'd be called Israel. And in fact, the whole country's named after this guy now. So names mean everything, and names were also important to God. But I have to tell you this, there was a time in the world's past when people tried to make a name for themselves, and in doing so, that got God's attention. They tried to advance their name over God's. And this Sunday, what we're going to do is we're going to look at a time period really that surrounded what I'm talking about, and that's the time period of the Great Tower of Babel. Something significant happened there. And really, what happened there would affect history from that point on. And interestingly enough, this event circled around the subject of a name. So what we're going to find out is that God sent confusion to the people, and it all surrounded this story because they didn't want to wear, guess what? God's name. So the writer of Genesis tells us about this event, and in doing so, it says that God said, "Let us go down and confuse their language." And what I've been wondering in this crazy time of political upheaval is really, it's this. Has God allowed confusion to come into our programming, into our families, into our work situations, into our lives? Because we have a lot of confusion today. Personal confusion, life confusion, work confusion. And could it be that God has allowed confusion to reign over like a wet blanket over our lives, all because we didn't want to wear his name? So let me ask you this. What is in a name? The fact is, we've all been given the rights and privileges of the name of our Creator God. And it's going to be hard to outdo that one, and nor should we want to. Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to go into further detail this Sunday about the power of a name and what that means for you and what it means for me. Until then, enjoy the fall weather. And until this Sunday morning, God bless, and we'll see you soon.